Imagine you are standing in the darkness of Makkah. The year is 616. A man walks through the city with a sword on his hip and murder in his heart. He is not a criminal. He is not an outcast. He is one of the most respected men in all of Arabia. And tonight, he has decided. Tonight, Muhammad, peace be upon him, will die. His name was Umar ibn al-Khattab. And before Islam, he was feared. Not with the fear of a tyrant, with the fear of a man who simply could not be stopped. He was tall. He was strong. He was so physically powerful that other men would cross the street rather than face him. He was a master of Arabic poetry, a skilled horseman, a trained wrestler who had never been beaten, a man whose voice alone could silence a room. The Quraysh loved him because Umar protected what they valued most: the old ways, the idols, the traditions of their fathers. And when Islam began to spread through Makkah, Umar became one of its most dangerous enemies. He watched as the Muslims were tortured, Bilal screaming one under the crushing weight of a boulder on his chest, Sumaya, an old woman stabbed to death by Abu Rahab, families torn apart, the weak enslaved, the strong exiled, and Umar felt nothing, or so he told himself, because deep inside something was already beginning to crack. He just did not know it yet. It was a night that would change history. Umar had made his decision. He strapped on his sword. He walked out into the darkness. His destination was the Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him. His intention was murder. He moved through the streets like a storm. No hesitation, no doubt, just purpose. But then a man stopped him. A man who knew what Umar was planning. And he said something that changed everything. Before you go to Muhammad, go to your own house first. Your own sister, your own brother-in-law. They have accepted Islam. The words hit Umar like a physical blow. His sister, Fatima, his own blood. He turned and walked toward her house. And before he even reached the door, he heard something. A voice. Recitation. Beautiful. Rhythmic. Unlike anything he had heard before. He stopped. He listened. And something inside his chest tightened. He knocked. The recitation stopped. Silence. He knocked again, harder this time. His sister Fatima opened the door. Her face pale, her eyes wide. She was afraid, and she had reason to be afraid, because everyone in Makkah knew what Umar did to Muslims. He pushed past her into the room. He saw the pages. He demanded to know what was on them. Fatima refused, and Umar struck her. Blood ran down her face, but she did not cry. She did not beg. She looked at her brother, the most feared man in Makkah, and she said, "Yes, Umar, I have become Muslim. Do what you will." Something broke inside him, not her face, not the room. Something inside Umar ibn al-Khattab broke open. He asked to read the pages, and what he read was Surah Taha. Indeed, I am Allah. There is no God except me. So worship me and establish prayer for my remembrance. He read it again and again. The sword was still on his hip, but his hands were trembling. Not from weakness, from recognition. Because somewhere deep inside Umar ibn al-Khattab, a voice that had been buried for years finally heard the truth it had always been searching for. He stood up. He still had his sword. He walked back out into the streets of Makkah. But this time, he was walking toward the house of al-Arqam, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his companions were gathered in secret. And when he knocked on that door, a companion looked through a crack and saw Umar with his sword. Fear moved through the room like cold water. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Let him in." The Prophet, peace be upon him, walked toward him. He grabbed Umar by his garment, and he said, "What has brought you here, O son of al-Khattab?" And Umar ibn al-Khattab, the man who had come that same night to commit murder, looked at the Prophet, peace be upon him, and said, "I have come to believe in Allah and His Messenger, and in what He has brought from Allah." The companions who had been bracing in fear erupted. Their takbir filled the house. Allahu Akbar. So loud that it echoed across the streets of Makkah. When Umar became Muslim, Makkah shook. Not metaphorically, psychologically. Because if Umar had converted, then Islam was no longer something that could be stopped. The Muslims who had been praying in secret now prayed openly. Because Umar said, "By Allah, we will not worship in hiding when we are upon the truth." He walked to the Kaaba. He prayed. In front of everyone, and the Quraysh, who had beaten, tortured, and murdered Muslims, stood back. Because this was Umar. And they knew what Umar ibn al-Khattab was capable of. Abdullah ibn Masud, one of the earliest companions, later said, "We could not pray at the Kaaba openly until Umar accepted Islam." Think about what that means. The man who was sent to stop Islam became the shield of Islam. The sword raised against the Prophet, peace be upon him, became a sword raised for him. This is what Allah does with those He chooses. He became al-Faruq, the distinguisher between truth and falsehood. He became the second caliph of Islam. He expanded the Muslim world from Persia to North Africa. He established justice so powerful that a widow alone could travel from one end of the empire to the other without fear. He slept on a bed of palm leaves. He carried his own belongings. He wept so often in prayer that permanent tear marks were traced on his face. The man who once made Muslims cry now cried for them. The man who once terrorized the weak now walked in the darkness of night to find them and feed them with his own hands. Near the end of his life, Umar ibn al-Khattab made one dua, one request, not for victory, not for wealth, not for a long life. He said, "O Allah, grant me martyrdom in your path, and let my death be in the city of your messenger." Medina. He wanted to die in Medina, and Allah answered him. He was stabbed while leading Fajr prayer. In the mosque of the Prophet, peace be upon him. In Medina, he died a martyr. In the city of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Exactly as he had asked. The man who once walked out with a sword to kill the Prophet, peace be upon him, died in the Prophet's mosque as a martyr beloved by Allah. And if Allah could take Umar from hatred to sainthood, from murderer to martyr, then no matter where you are tonight, no matter what you have done, no matter how far you feel from Allah, the door has not been closed on you. Turn back, right now, in this moment, because Allah is closer to you than you think, and He is still writing your story.